It is Midweek Extra. It is John Gibbons. I am hosting this week, and I'm joined by Beth, Lindop, by Mo Stewart, and by Liam Cowan. One of those. I feel like I should spend 10 minutes before just saying it to myself into the mirror. Like most shadow boxes before press conferences. I'm going to have to start sort of doing that. Leon is definitely here. So one name like Beyonce in the future. We're going to talk a little bit in part one about the Champions League game, and then in part two, we're going to look ahead, of course, to a Carabao Cup Final that we have at the weekend, which is really, really exciting. There's not many teams who get knocked out of Europe and get to go straight into a final, so aren't we fortunate that we're able to do that? In between the two, I've spoken to Tom Cassidy, who works for Liverpool on the tourism side, about loads of exciting things that have happened to them recently and also they've got coming up in the future. But, I mean, first of all, how are we? A bit, innit?
Yeah.
A bit still.
I mean, there are times when...
I thought it was me putting more Champions League games on last night, to be honest with you. I thought we should have had a day of mourning.
Well, I mean, I certainly didn't want to watch any English teams, particularly English teams winning.
Yeah, well, they're through. Yeah,
so,
just having a nice time.
Yeah, so I avoided those. I watched the Madrid battle, which was an event in itself. But I feel like sometimes when you get beat, you can feel like you look at things and think, oh, well, if only this and if only that and whatever. But this time, I just felt like it was the right result in terms of the way the games played out. We weren't as good as the opponents were. And you never really take comfort in that, but you can at least, reconcile with it a little bit later. But yeah, that doesn't make it any easier. I think, and this is ridiculous to say this, but it's just what's my head's been like. The thing that I've been thinking about most is not either of the games against PSG. It's if we had just scored one more goal against PSV, then we wouldn't have had to play them in the first place.
Yeah.
But that's where madness lies, unfortunately.
Well, it's the madness of the new setup, isn't it? That, after the game, I think Slot said we were unlucky that we sort of got them. It got sort of PSG, but it's, we're all sort of learning about the setup. The people who introduced it are learning about it. They might make some changes next season. There's also a little bit of a thing around the fact that, sometimes a team emerge throughout the season, and that's what PSG have done. People who beat them earlier in the season who were gloating and in for a shock if they have to play them again. I think it is sort of fair to say, but I think it's just sort of how it all goes sometimes. And like Mo says, you can drive yourself mad with, well, it should have been like this, or if only we'd have done this. Pick the either a stronger team against PSV or a weaker team against everyone else, sort of in the build up to it. But the fact is, sometimes you do play a good team. Often you play a good team. You have to beat at least one normally to win a Champions League. And when you play a good team, sometimes you get beat.
Yeah, it's mad really to think that across this Champions League campaign, Liverpool have beaten the champions of Spain, champions of Germany, champions of France, obviously in that first leg without conceding a goal across those three games, and yet they're still out in the round of 16. It's not too often that happens, and it's fair enough that I think Arne Slot and his players will probably be feeling a little hard done by in terms of having been drawn against them. But as you say, sort of that is the nature of this competition. You have to beat the best to be the best, and ultimately if Liverpool hadn't faced PSG or a team of their calibre at this stage, it would have come further down the line. I think Arne Slot had it right when he said after the game, if you're going to go out of a competition, you want to go out having thrown absolutely everything into it, and nobody who watched that game on Tuesday night could accuse either of those two teams of not trying to squeeze every last drop out of it. I think the frustration for Liverpool, aside from the fact that they were drawn against PSG, is that I don't think across the two legs that they showed the very best of themselves, and that is partly credit to PSG for stopping them from doing that. But I think even though Liverpool were obviously much improved on Tuesday from the previous week, I still don't think they were quite at the level that that we saw them against Real Madrid, for example, or Leverkusen or Manchester City at Anfield back in December. So I think there's maybe a little bit of frustration that PSG, I think, probably played too close to the very best level, and I'm not quite sure Liverpool did. But I would agree with Mo. I think over the two legs, it was the fair result. I think PSG, they look incredible, don't they? And if they can keep that sort of mental resolve that they showed at Anfield on Tuesday night, then they've got to be the favourites to go on and win the competition for me.
We've got a drummer. Someone on percussion anyway. How are you, Leon?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't get so down when we get beat. Or go out competitions. I learned many years ago that kicking the dog isn't the way forward. I think there was a cigarette paper between the two teams. I don't think there was that much in it. I think if you have a look at where their weakness was, I think it was in defence really, rather than I thought their midfield was really good.
Yeah.
I think the strikers are good, and I think that's where our weakness came as well. That our attack didn't quite take it to them. So I just think lessons for us is about improving what we're doing up top. Next time we come up against a big team, it's we've got a final Sunday to look forward to, and another 9 games in the league, isn't it, to hopefully get that one over the line. So the beautiful thing about football is the same thing happens every year, so we get another go at it next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And with a developing team, Mo, and I tweeted afterwards that, the manager knows where our strengths and weaknesses are at the moment. He's talked recently, in press conferences that you've attended about last summer, why they didn't do more, and it was about sort of building knowledge. And he said quite matter-of-factly, we know now where we're strong and where we need areas for improvement. And so to do everything that they have done while they're still learning on the job, is phenomenal, really. And it's like Beth going into ESPN and just like smashing everything. You know what I mean? But still kind of like, trying to figure out where the coffee machine is and stuff like that. It's like
that's arguably less surprising.
I didn't say it was a surprise. It was just the closest analogy I could think to Liverpool currently being 15 points clear at the top.
I'm going to click this up and put on LinkedIn proof.
Yeah. Things with midweek extra that they'll learn me about the B2B sales. It is everything that we think that Liverpool need to improve, like the manager pretty much does as well, and he's probably got a few more too as well. So there's all those factors that delay into to make it sensible to end up where Leon is, which is like a bit philosophical, although frustrated. And I've watched the disallowed goal back a million times. I don't know why I've done it to myself, just going like, oh, imagine.
Yeah, and I think, so the disallowed goal, and I kind of take Leon's point as well, the attacking element, the fact that if you'd have said to me at the beginning of the game, in fact, when we were talking about it earlier on the day, that Liverpool would play 120 minutes and not score a goal, I'd have been like, no chance. No chance that happens. I think that the fact that we couldn't, I think it was only like 3 of the 19 shots were hit the target as well. It's a little bit of one of those situations where you start to think, when we get to the crunch, we need more options, because obviously Cody Gakpo being injured didn't help, and I think that a fully fit Cody Gakpo makes a big difference to that game and to the result potentially. But it's another game where Mo Salah wasn't at his best, and therefore Liverpool's attack wasn't at its best. And you get into a situation where you think, are we in a bit chicken and egg, in as much as are we sacrificing the skills of others to allow Mo Salah to be great, or is Mo Salah's greatness kind of masking the deficiencies of others? And the answer to that question will probably come in the summer with the decisions on the futures of pretty much all of them except Gakpo, to be honest.
Yeah, if we sign Isaac and he gets 5 goals by January, then you start to think, well, maybe it's maybe it's just hard to be number 9 for Liverpool.
But I think you're right to say that all of the evidence points to the fact that Liverpool next season will be better than Liverpool this season. And I think we've been in situations in the recent past where we've had a peak year that's looked great, and then the worry has been, well, can we build on it? And we haven't always been able to build on it. This time, I'm a lot more confident that we will be able to, because, like you say, the information the Slot has been able to build over what he can do with this team, what he can't do with this team, it really feels like this summer is going to be such a pivotal one for maybe the next 5 or 10 years of this club.
Leon used the word cigarette paper between the teams, which I like as an old school saying. But when games are that close, it is just sort of little moments that you think, well, if only, I mentioned the goal, he is offside. You can sort of see he's offside, but there's so much great play after that. It's a shame, especially by Trent Alexander-Arnold, who then goes off just as he's really, I feel like, pairing in that game. It took a little bit of while for him to get into it, but in that moment, especially, but just generally around then. And ironically, he gets himself injured trying to win tackles high up the pitch and trying to win the ball, which he's accused that he's probably thinking I should have just jogged him or jogged back. See, I told you I was right. But there's the one that hits the post that just looks like it's going in for so long, and it's going in slow motion, and then somehow bounces back. It never quite bounces back for us. Even the Salah one early, and I think that's a really good attacking play from the team. I love the way that we're bursting into the box. It's a really good move. McAllister sort of does great, and although I think it's good defending, because the way he turns and the way he gets back in, it bounces off his knee. If it's 2 inches higher, it's in the goal. And so in tight games, you just need that little bit of something sometimes, and it didn't quite happen for us that day, and that's sort of cup football.
Yeah, and I think even probably the staunchest Liverpool supporter could say that Liverpool had fortune on their side in the first leg. Obviously had Alisson Becker on the side as well, which massively helps, but
he's better than fortune.
He is. He's fortune personified, Alisson Becker. But, Liverpool had the rub of the green, didn't they, really, in the away leg. Didn't deserve to win that game in terms of the collective performance. PSG outclassed them for 85 minutes pretty much. And then, it wasn't quite to the same extent on Tuesday night, but it felt like that PSG probably had the look. I thought Liverpool started really, really well, and it was one of those nights. The first 10 minutes, Liverpool were just absolutely at it. PSG were struggling to get the foot on the ball, and the crowd were really up for it, and you just felt like Liverpool are going to do them here, and then the goal comes completely against the run of play. Far too easy from Liverpool's perspective, a goal to concede. A little bit of misfortune in terms of Konate had to really slide in there, because otherwise it would have been a tap in anyway, but just the way the ball falls then straight to Dembele, I'm not sure he'll score too many easier goals than that. And I think just the moment that goal came, it just changed the course of the evening, I think, really. And, had Liverpool taken an early lead, and obviously it's all speculative now, isn't it? And it's easy to look back with hindsight. But if one of those early chances goes in, there is potentially a chance that PSG's head drop, and, the crowd then probably go up a gear, and you can see Liverpool scoring 2 or 3 in that first half when they're in that kind of mood. But as soon as PSG got a foothold back into it, I think for them that was a real nerve settler. For the fans, it was a real nerve settler. And then for the Liverpool fans, I think it dampened the atmosphere a little bit. I still don't quite think the atmosphere was as bad as some people have maybe made out online, but it did just feel like it took the wind out of everybody's sails a little bit. And then the more the night went on, you just sort of felt like it wasn't going to be Liverpool's night. The hit in the post, and a couple of saves that Donnarumma made. I think that for me is the biggest frustration, because I actually think Donnarumma really flatters to deceive. I really don't think, I think you look at that PSG team, I think that they're a really complete team. I think he is probably the biggest weakness. I think you only had to look at his attempt at saving Harvey Elliott's goal in the first leg. I don't think he's certainly not anywhere near Alisson's level, and I don't think across the 2 legs that Liverpool tested him enough. And I think that's probably the biggest frustration, should be one of the biggest frustrations from Liverpool's perspective. But fair play to him, he really stood up in that second half, and obviously in the shootout. So yeah, it was a frustrating night, but I think it's one of them that you come away from and you think, you can't complain too much. It's cup football. Sometimes things just don't go your way, and I agree with all of you. I think Arne Slot knows what needs to be done, knows where this squad needs to be upgraded, and I do back the club to go out and bring in some of the right people in the summer.
I know I said that was all right, but you're bringing on a bit of PTSD here now.
It's the incident.
No, look, it was a sucker punch, that goal, and it's like you just want Ali to scream and come and get it a little bit sooner and stuff like that. And it came from a big straight pass, which just seemed to find the biggest space on the field, which no one was in, and one of their lads dropped back and picked it up. For me, and you mentioned about Donnarumma, like the amount of times he parries the ball into that box, and there's just none of us there. And I was like, where are we? And that was my biggest challenge with the other night, was the amount of times that he gave us a little chance and we just didn't seem to be there. And that wasn't through lack of effort. The lads worked hard and stuff like that. It's just a look at the draw sometimes. Some of them parries, some of them things that came off him, and we just didn't have anyone, Johnny, on the spot just to literally get a tap in.
Yeah, and that's the sort of the way it goes sometimes. And on the subs as well, Leon, there's been a lot of talk about the subs, but I think subs is a bit of a lottery, and when managers are praised for subs, I'm always thinking, well, yeah, but you're throwing them out. It's throwing the dice. I always think with substitutes, and I think, listen, if a manager is consistently good at substitutions, then I think there's obviously something in that, and Arne Slot has been this season. But there's always, I think, and I like I say, this isn't just because they didn't do well, because I think it when they do as well, there's always an element of, well, we'll have to see. We'll see how he sort of gets on. I spoke to Harvey Elliott yesterday, which is out on YouTube for people to watch, and he was like, it generally takes you about 10-15 minutes to figure out, to sort of get into a game, and he basically pretty much said the more intense game it is, the longer that sort of can be, really. And so, you're relying on someone, doing something or producing something magic in a game where they're probably not up to speed on. So, but that said, the sub sort of didn't make an impact at all yesterday, really, and that's, I think, as I say, I think that is a bit of a bad luck, because I think you could play again next week and do the same subs and they could just play much better. But I thought Curtis just couldn't get to the pace of the game at all. Elliott's obviously had 2 games in a row where he's made a big impact from the bench, but it's not, he's not going to score a goal in less than a minute every time he sort of comes on the pitch, unfortunately, for all of us. And Darwin obviously ends up missing the pen, and you end up thinking, well, is he better just keeping lads on and keeping McAllister on and keeping Szoboszlai on, because you'd back them over the penalty, but they were starting to get on top and we were tired, and if they score because you've left lads on who were tired, then you don't even get a penalty shootout. I think he's got to be bold and try and stem that and win the game.
It's a mad one, subs, because they don't get mentioned if you don't lose the game most of the time, unless they score the winner.
Yeah.
And there's no conversation around it unless you're Endo and you come on and you close the game down, in which case you're the greatest footballer that's ever lived. But like it's the amount of times that subs are made and no one ever mentions them, but then when you lose, then all of a sudden, he didn't do nothing, he didn't. I'd hate to come on in that PSG game, even if I was really good, because it was so intense.
Yeah.
It was so nip and tuck. It must be really difficult to get involved in a game like that and get sucked into the atmosphere. I always have to trust the manager, the coaching staff and stuff. If they see that someone's in a red zone, if they know that someone's, they've got to do it. I think the only thing I can't trust them on is putting Cody Gakpo on the other day when he looked like he had one leg. I just didn't get that. He was, God bless him, but there was nothing there. And I'm guessing that's all you've got, but you wonder what Freddie Kiesa's thinking on the bench when...
The Gakpo one was slightly weird because, listen, Arne Slot isn't the first manager to gamble and lose on a player, so he's coming back from injury. You've got the information, the player's telling you, I'm fine, boss, put me in and stuff like that, and you've got a decision to make. And it happens every season to every manager, unless you're never playing in a big game, there's always a call on that, really, and you think, well, do we just say no, get yourself right for the final, which he probably wishes he had done now, or does he say, listen, he's telling me he's all right, and the physio's saying he looks okay, and if I can just get 10-15 minutes out of him, it's hard. And like I said, every manager has probably done it at some point and it's not worked, but every manager probably thinks, well, I've done it at that point, and it did work. And like Leon says, no one talks about them.
No, exactly. And it's difficult, because I do wonder whether or not he was thinking, well, I've just taken off 2 lads who take penalties, so I probably need to put one on who could potentially take penalties. So I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd have been down to take the 5th one if there had been a 5th one.
Well, Harvey Elliott was on the 5th one. He told me that. You need to listen to the interview. But he might have been on 4.
Well, yeah.
Because we don't know. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Well, put it this way, he would have probably been someone who would have been more likely to take a penalty than Luis Diaz, put it that way. So maybe that came into his thinking. But
I don't know what Diaz would do on a penalty.
No.
I feel like he'd dribble it.
Ramona.
There's a part of me that hopes we never find out. But
it's going to penalties Sunday.
Yeah, don't say that. Come on. We're all having fun here. I think with substitutions, you can drive yourself insane. Say, like you were saying, in terms of what do you want to do? What can we do? And one of the other things that Slot said that I've always, ever since you said it, I've been thinking about is that it's so much easier to be a defensive substitute than an attacking substitute. Because I think that, for example, I thought Quansah did actually really well when he came on. And Endo's Endo, he does his thing and he does it well. But when you've been asked to kind of get up to speed and to then try to make an impact and to try to create something, it's so much harder when you aren't at speed. I mean, the people who have been elite at it, so the one I always go think back to is Solskjaer, like his ability to be able to come on and always affect the game is so rare. And you look at your players and you think, well, who can do that? But then for me, and again, this might be overkill slightly, but I'm thinking that he was kind of hamstrung by the decisions he'd made before that day. I think this goes back to the decisions he made against Southampton.
Yeah.
I think if you rest some of those players against Southampton, then they are less likely to be in the red zone come the 85th, 95th minute against PSG. And then you can start to be a little bit more, well, I'm going to take a bit more risk and just give this guy another 15 minutes. Because, I mean, obviously, Arne Slot gave his reasons for why he wanted to play everyone in Southampton, and we've seen the whole idea of keeping them in rhythm, and when they haven't had a long break, they've not always been great, and you understand all that. PSG made 8 changes at the weekend, and they look like a team who had a rest at the weekend, and we didn't. And
certainly in extra time.
They were the ones who looked like they were going to score the next goal. And when you consider that there's another game that could go to extra time to come, it is a worrying situation. And also, I don't mean to scare anybody, but I looked into the details of exactly how many Liverpool players are going to be playing competitive games in this March international break. Newsflash, most of them.
Yeah. All right, Mo. To be honest, the season's done in March. Anyway, sort of either way, we'll either have a cup or we'll have a league title. So I'm not sort of too worried about that. But I think I'm all over the place on Southampton, and I was in the sort of the build up to it before the PSG away game. I was like, rest as many players as you can, and then we didn't play well at PSG, and so I sort of talked myself into the rhythm argument. And then after PSG at home, I've ended up thinking that I was right in the first place. I'm talking myself through that journey because I think it's important to say like there always is a little bit of hindsight, and the manager's got to make these decisions, and they're tough. And I understand it's not all about freshness all the time. You know, there is rhythm arguments. There is, I think he wanted a good performance against Southampton. He got one eventually, but it didn't necessarily go how he sort of wanted it to. I always like just get to 3-0 and then take everyone off argument, because I'm always like, well, what if you don't? What if you don't get to 3-0? It's like, it sounds wonderful, but what if that doesn't happen? That certainly didn't happen. But then the two who we did try and rest, McAllister and Robertson, he ends up feeling like he needs to sort of bring on at half time. We've talked a little bit about transfers. I can't figure out whether he's not rotating more because he's only got a small number of players he trusts. So if he gets more players than he trusts, he'll rotate more. Or if he's just not into it. And I think there might be a little bit at least of the latter. And when you speak to people who watched him at Feyenoord, they said he kept it fairly tight. I'm not sure he's my keen, and so I don't think when what was it, 13 points clear going into that game, playing the worst side in the league at home. If you're not playing Endo, then you're never going to. But I just really, then you can say, but he's obviously not too keen on him. He doesn't do what he needs him to do and stuff like that. But he'll get another guy in who's more likely, and then you'll see more rotation. But I'm not really convinced. I think he might just be a little weirdo who just likes playing the same lads.
Yeah, I think a lot of top managers actually are like that. I think Guardiola is quite similar in the sense that I think at City, I think there's this narrative around City because of the amount of money that they spend, that they constantly have a massive squad. But actually City have quite a small squad and have done for the last few years. And I think Pep Guardiola likes to rely on the same sort of real core of players in most games. And I think one of Arne Slot's greatest strengths is his record with injuries, and of course some luck comes into that, but you look obviously at his time at Feyenoord and over his 3 seasons there, I think the availability levels were above 90% across those 3 seasons. So if you're able to keep players fit, then why would you not play them? And I do think Liverpool are a team that are better when they are in a rhythm, and making those sort of wholesale changes doesn't really allow you to find that. That said, I would have maybe liked a few more against Southampton. I'm not saying change the whole team, but I agree with you. I think Endo has done absolutely everything possible to show that he is a very capable player, whether he's playing at the back, whether he's playing in midfield. And I think if you can't play him against a team that are at the bottom of the league when you're going to have most of the ball, I can't really reconcile with that decision. And that is where I do think maybe Slot is wary of some of his players, maybe doesn't trust them as much as he perhaps should. But then again, he's the one seeing them in training every single day, and his coaching staff, and we've got to trust that they have, a far greater insight into that than us. So yeah, it's such a hard balance to strike, isn't it? Because even if the game had gone in exactly the same way, and then Harvey Elliott had scored a last minute equaliser, we'd have been saying, oh, what a masterstroke that was by Arne Slot. He's managed this week perfectly. So it's so difficult. I think that Liverpool not having as many of the reliable penalty takers on the pitch by the end of extra time was a blow, I think. But then it's hard because McAllister was on a yellow card, and PSG did look far more energetic in extra time. So if he'd have had to yank someone down, and then Liverpool had been down to 10 men and something like that, there's all those sorts of things to consider. I would have probably kept Szoboszlai on. He's a really reliable penalty taker. It's so hard, and it's why I'm very grateful I'm not an elite level manager, because I would be terrible. I'd be just going to someone else. Can you make the decision? Because I haven't got a clue.
I don't think he could have done Elliott without doing Szoboszlai, and I think he probably just wants to get Elliott on the pitch, thinking maybe it's just his time.
And to be fair, I don't really have a problem with the Gakpo sub, as much as obviously it was disappointing when he came on in the end. He's not actually been out for that long. He's been out for 2 weeks, which it's not as if he's been out for 8 weeks and he's just thrown him in. He's been out for a relatively short amount of time.
So fitness-wise, he should have been okay. So he's obviously just still not over where he was.
It's maybe a little bit of lack of match sharpness, still maybe a little bit of pain, but it's not as if he's been out for a really long time. So I don't mind that, and I think Gakpo's done enough this season to warrant being given a chance in that game, particularly when the forward line weren't firing. But I do think there is maybe an argument now that this season Arne Slot has been able to really look at his squad, and I think the positive is that I think he now does have a very clear idea of the areas where he would like more bodies, so that he has that option to rotate, and that he can maybe trust another. He doesn't need another squad of 11 players that he needs to trust, but I think another 3-4 players who he feels like he could play in any kind of game, I think would be really beneficial.
It's really interesting because you talk about like match fitness, match sharpness, and there must be that element of trust with players as well, because he's seen them in training and get that, but he hasn't quite seen them perform in a top game and stuff like that. And it must be that same conundrum. But then the challenge from that comes is that if you never give them a game, you can't get to see whether or not they're going to be able to cut it. So maybe if, touch wood, we get a few decent results in the next month or so, then he can give some of them that game sharpness and see how they are when maybe the league results aren't as important, because it's almost nearly there, I'm guessing.
I think it's difficult because, like you say, some of the guys who haven't had a chance, when they have had a chance, it's not been with the first team. It's been with other guys who are in a similar situation.
For Plymouth, for example.
Yeah, or PSV. I'm going to stop mentioning that game, I promise. And so you get to a situation where how relatable is that as evidence of what this person can do with the first team, with the best team? So maybe in a situation where we're getting towards the end of the season, we will see some more changes, some more rotation. But yeah, I feel like if Slot is genuinely a man who just doesn't like rotation, he just likes to keep his tight squad, and he's relying on what he's been able to do in Holland, not only in keeping players fit, but also being able to keep them going, I think he would have to acknowledge the fact that that's a lot harder to do in England, not just because of the fact that we've got a whole extra cup competition to deal with, but just the way the games naturally are more intense, then you have to think about the fact that the teams towards the bottom of the league are harder to beat in England than they are in Holland. So when you factor all three of those things in, it is so much harder to just say, I'm only going to use these 14, 15 guys and they're going to take me to where I need to be. You have to start trusting others. And you can make the argument with Endo, you can make the argument around the style of play that he is and say, well, maybe he doesn't do the kind of thing that you want. But then he had Tyler Morton sitting there for months, who is that style of player, didn't see the pitch. And again, the big unknown is training, what he's asking them to do and what they are or aren't doing. It's the one thing we're never going to get to see and know. But you look at it and you think, I wonder whether he's going to get to the end of the season and think, well, this is my ideal, but in order to survive in this country, I'm going to have to adapt to it a bit.
And that goes back to, learning and not even sort of learning, more experience, really. And like we said, it is his first season. He doesn't look like he's got a whole lot to learn in terms of coaching and in terms of, developing players, working with players. He seems like a phenomenal coach, but anyone put into a slightly different situation, gains experience from that. So we mentioned more, he's learning more about his squad and, what he's got and what he needs, but also like Mo says, the trials and tribulations of a Premier League season and how you can, rest the team against Plymouth in an FA Cup and everyone goes mad because it's shown on terrestrial TV, so you can't mess about with that. But, the little things that happen throughout a year, the runs of a season, they are fairly typical and they don't sort of change too much unless someone throws a World Cup in November. Like generally, English seasons generally sort of run the same, and after a year he'll know that. And we've seen managers in the past, Rafa had a year in the Premier League and bought Peter Crouch and Momo Sissoko, people
it gets to everyone
basically. Yeah, he wasn't doing that at Valencia. So there's those situations, isn't it? We've seen from managers in the past, it's adapting themselves and adapting their ideals, like Mo said, to what they're presented in front of. But considering he's done phenomenally well.
Yeah, and that's why sort of I feel like, maybe some of the reaction to Tuesday is maybe slightly over exaggerated, because of course it was massively disappointing for Liverpool to go out. It would have been incredible to go deeper into the competition, particularly having done so well in the league phase. And also I think there's an element because it almost does feel like the league is nearly won. It's almost a bit like, well, what do we do with ourselves now for another few months? It would certainly be strange only having sort of one game a week to cover rather than three, as it's been for sort of the last few months. But yeah, I just think there's been this sort of, certainly from rival fans in the aftermath of that game, there was this desperate need to sort of revise Liverpool's season and look back at it through a lens of, well, it just sort of shows that what they've done isn't that impressive because the Premier League isn't actually that good this season and this and that. And you can take that from rival fans because they were always going to look to find a way to do Liverpool down. It would have been the same if they got through. There'd have been people saying, well, they didn't deserve to go through. PSG were better. So I can take that from rival fans. But I think when you see people from Liverpool's own fan base being like, trying to diminish what they've done this season and saying, well, we're only going to win the league now. You just think, hang on a second. Like, what Liverpool have done this season is extraordinary. It really, really is. And, I've been so lucky. I've been at most of the games home and away this season. And, I've watched various types of performances, games where they've absolutely blown teams away, games where they've ground out wins, games where they've come from behind, games where they've hung on and got a point, and they've just shown so much. The manager has shown so much. And, a year ago, if you'd have said that Liverpool would be in this position, I'm not sure anyone would have believed you. And yes, maybe they've had a little bit of good fortune in terms of Arsenal have lost players to injury. City haven't been the same force. But this is a Liverpool team that could still finish on well above 90 points, who could still be sort of within the top 5 in terms of points tallies in a Premier League season. This is a coach that's only managed, with the greatest respect, in the Dutch league, and this is his first season. So he's able to do that with virtually none of his own players, with sort of the contract situation hanging over him, everything that he's had to deal with coming into the club and replacing a manager with the stature of Jurgen Klopp, then I think Liverpool have a very bright future ahead.
A very bright future ahead indeed. Maybe a very bright Sunday. We're going to find out. We're going to have a little bit of a break. But first of all, earlier this week, I spoke to Tom Cassidy from Liverpool about the museum, about the tours, about fun things they got planned, and a recent award win, and this is that. And it is John Gibbons. I'm delighted to be joined by Tom Cassidy to, first of all, celebrate, Tom, because, you do fantastic work all year round at Liverpool Football Club on the side of the tourism. The remit is huge now in terms of obviously day-to-day doing the museum, doing the tours, doing the special experiences that you guys offer. So I'm sure there isn't too many moments to reflect and to pat each other on the back and say well done, but you certainly got one of those recently. Best Visitor Attraction at the Liverpool City Region Tourism Awards. I've seen the pictures. It looked like you enjoyed the night. It must have been a nice moment to not just get that recognition, but also to say to each other, do you know what, we've had a good year and well done.
Yeah, no, hi John, thanks for that. Look, it's a really great achievement for us because everything's reviewable, even you're reviewable as well, but everything's reviewable now online. So you can see like people go on and they rate, but this was different. This was a process, really rigorous, a really formulaic and intensive application. And luckily we got past that, and then it went over to a judging panel. Now, these are all independent judges, not Liverpool fans, no affiliation, and they have to fit in with criteria, from Visit England. So it's probably the most exhaustive award recognition we can get. But yet it means a lot. I'm not going to lie. We last won this maybe 13, 14 years ago. And whilst I wasn't there on the night, I know I posted a lot of photos. The team were, and I was following it. I was in the hotel. I was in the airport, coming back from my holiday, and I was following it online, looking at all the social posts. Yeah, was really, really happy. So now from here, we then get entered for the Visit England Large Visitor Attraction Awards, and and I think as soon as you win this, the judging process starts there. So yeah, really good. Thanks for your well wishes, and really pleased for the team.
No, because I was delighted for you guys, because I know you personally, Tom. You like to put yourself up against any tourist attraction, not just in Liverpool, but across the northwest and beyond. And you want people to come to the city, and whether they're Liverpool fans or not, see Anfield as a destination and see Anfield as something that's going to be a fantastic day out for football fans, Liverpool fans, but people who just got a casual interest in the game. And I know as well that you've looked at what other clubs are doing around the country, around Europe, and you benchmark yourselves to that as well. So it's all that work that you and the team have done to make sure that the offering is as appealing as possible to people in the city. That all that work goes into this, doesn't it?
No, it really does. And I think the exciting bit for me as well is, and I know talk is cheap, but it feels like we're just getting started. Obviously success on the pitch, can help a lot as well. But I think that's also over to us to make sure that, we are making it memorable. If people are, coming here to do a pilgrimage for any trophies, which may or may not come, it's really important for us to, to make sure that all the elements of the visit is there. So yeah, really pleased for it, and look forward to submitting an application for next year as well.
Well, the best thing about the museum is that it's a live thing, and we can always get to add to it. And this weekend there is an opportunity. Of course, listen, we're going to touch wood all over the place. Newcastle are going to be tough opponents, but the museum is meant to be, and it is a celebration of Liverpool's success, and when we win things, and when we get to add trophies to it, and not just trophies but memories and moments, that is a thing that you guys look to do. And not least, I know in the past there's been the opportunity to see trophies and stuff like that. And listen, we're really getting ahead of ourselves now, but you must look at these finals not just as a Liverpool fan yourself with excitement, but also, well, this is a chance to tell new stories, which is what you do best.
Yeah. Really good team. Some of the guys who work with us as well, and regardless of how the season ends, it is over to us to try and tell that in a really creative way. So there may or may not be something which comes. We'll all know after this has gone out. And obviously, if it does, look forward to chatting to you then. Chatting to you then about kind of what we're doing for any potential celebrations.
So what we do know is coming up is things like Easter holidays and stuff like that. And I think what I've noticed that you guys, I don't know if you're doing more of it or I've just got kids now, so so I'm having to sort of worry about it a little bit more. But school holidays, you really try and tailor what you do towards people like myself who are thinking, what on earth am I going to do with my 5-year-old boy who's football mad? And I know, and I'm sure a lot of the things that you'll be looking to do over the Easter holidays, which is coming up, is tailored around parents who are looking for activities and to keep children busy and engaged.
Yeah, no, that's right. And whilst we haven't got the final details for this year, last year we did something with Cadbury's, one of our partners, and during most school holidays, I think as you said, we deal with you a lot on this as well. We do lots of additional activities. So last Easter there was a bit of a hunt. There was lots of giveaways that were there. We have football skills, and everything as well, alongside the normal stadium tour. So yeah, really good for families and for the bigger kids as well.
Something that we've talked about as well that I wanted to speak to you a little bit more about, Tom, is the probably thing that we've had best feedback on in terms of the things we've pushed is these Legends Q&As, and that's something that's relatively new to your offering. But personally, I think the price point of them is brilliant. I think for 50 quid for adults, when the fact that you're getting the stadium tour and the museum thrown in, and then this Legends Q&A, and they are legends, coming up. The people that you've got, huge names in Liverpool's history, people who've won league titles and European Cups, and we know have got great stories. They tend to be every weekend. They tend to be sort of going on, as I say, throughout the year, and you mix it up on the Legends are. But that's something that people have spoke to me and said, do you know what, John, thanks for pushing those Legends Q&As. I went on them and I got Alan Kennedy or Ian Callaghan or Steve McMahon and some of the younger guys as well. People really enjoy those, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And for us, like before we made the changes to the main stand, the legends used to, they used to take them into the old dressing room, and you'd have all sorts of things going on. But we didn't think it was right to have the legends on the tour. So what we do some time with the legends beforehand, which works really well. It's quite intimate, we could sell a lot more for each one, but we don't at the moment because it's a really intimate. Everyone gets a chance to hear and to find out more, and the photographs and autographs, and then they go on a tour into the museum and more as well. I think the legends enjoy it as well.
Great.
I can see when they're here, they have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the price point, it's £50 for adults. It's even cheaper for kids. And I think it's great value in terms of,
Yeah.
You get it. It's a full day once you've done the museum and stuff like that as well, and hear from someone who's won things and scored things for Liverpool Football Club. It's not a bad day at all, and it's a great addition to what you guys are offering sort of throughout the year. And so if people want to have a little look, I always find the easiest way to get to the tours page is lfc.tv/tours. That will take you, so you can book on the Legends Q&As. There's the Anfield Experience, the Ultimate LFC Experience, if you want, with those really high value, amazing sort of packages. Obviously, if you just want to book one of those stadium tours for across Easter as well, and the abseil, which I know is growing very popular too. But aside from all that, Tom, just while we got you, I know you're really active in terms of the city, and you're a fantastic ambassador for tourism across Liverpool, Merseyside and beyond. So I do want to pick your brains while you're here, first of all, because there's a lot of people coming to Liverpool at the moment. I think the team might have a few things that are going on between now and the summer. And listen, my phone's off the hook with people who want to be in Liverpool, whether they're going to games or not, for this really exciting run-in. So if you don't mind, Tom, you know better than anyone what's going on and things that people can do while they're here in this wonderful city. So yeah, just one or two things that you think people should maybe look out for.
Okay.
For a few days.
Okay. I mean, look, we've got to start with things like the Beatles story. They also won at the Tourism Awards last week for, I think it was Best International Attraction. And something that's a little bit out of town is Strawberry Fields. Have you been?
I have, yeah. I live not far from
Yeah.
here, so
Yeah. It's good. It's a little gem. It's run by the Salvation Army, and they're all about giving back into society. So that's a real special place. And they've also got outside a little bandstand in the summer. So, really good. Hopefully, as we get into the summer, coming back into town, there's the Royal Liver Building 360 tour. Now, again, if you haven't been to that, you really should. So it's based in the Liver Buildings, right next to the British Moose Experience. Again, got to give them a plug in the Mersey Ferry. So for people who might be short on time, you've got a good access there in the city. So Beatles Store in the Albert Dock, take a walk down to the Liver Buildings, Royal Liver Buildings 360. British Moose Experience over the road, and the Pierhead and Ferry Terminal over there. Then you have a little bit more time, Strawberry Fields out in South Liverpool. Obviously we work a lot with the city region, so I guess it's only right to say if anyone wants to find out more, visit liverpool.com. Always has everything, up to date and featured and temporary stuff as well. We're listed on there, so feel free to go straight to the Liverpool Football Club pages.
Yeah, a couple of great shouts in there and things that people might not necessarily, know about. Even the Royal Liver Building 360 tour is something that I wasn't necessarily aware of, that you could go up there and you could get that literal 360 view across the city. It is brilliant. I think the British Museum
and there's a really good sorry to interrupt, John. There's a really good immersive experience when you're up in the tower as well. It would definitely worth having a look.
Yeah, people might not realise that you can do that, and obviously it's a stone's throw away from an award-winning podcast and media company, so you'll be able to get a glimpse of the Anfield Wrap offices as well, which is a thrill for any tourist, red or blue, I'm sure. Listen, Tom, congratulations again on the award. Would encourage people to get yourself reacquainted or even acquainted with stuff that's going on day to day at Liverpool on a non-match day, because it's evolving all the time. Tom and the team are doing amazing way to develop that all the time. And so if you've not been for a while or even at all, I'd encourage you to take a look. But Tom, thanks very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Cheers.
We are back in the room. It is John Gibbons, and I'm still with Leon, with Beth, and with Mo. We're looking ahead to the Carabao Cup Final. We're llooking ahead to another trip to Wembley. It's been countless over the last few years, and aren't we fortunate? And we play Newcastle United, who I'm sure will be very looking forward to their trip and the occasion for them as well. It's set up to be a good game. I mean, I've said this before, Leon, and it's not been. Finals, they can be cagey affairs, but I just feel like we're going to get a good game of footy on Sunday. What do you think?
They've got some good players. Gamirez and Tonali in midfield are decent players. Obviously, Isaac's a really good player. Joe Linton's a very good wrestler. Which always comes in handy if the referee's going to allow you to do whatever you want during the game. Look, it's set, like you say, it's set up for a 0-0 and then penalties win, isn't it? Like it usually is at Wembley.
I don't know. When Leon says they've got good players, they all seem to be attacking ones, especially at the moment with sort of injuries. And so I think the best way forward to them is to attack. Eddie Howe's a good tactical manager. I don't think he probably doesn't get enough credit, but listen, that's what happens when you join a team that's owned by governments, and Pep Guardiola probably doesn't get enough credit, but unlucky dickhead. Do you know what I mean? You'll have to just count all your medals. At least he's got medals. Eddie's not even sort of got them yet, but he might get one on Sunday. But I think he is a good tactical manager. I think he'll have a plan to how to negate Liverpool best he can, and also to get the most out of the quality that they've got in the final third, and they'll take some beating.
They will, absolutely, and it'll be a great atmosphere. I'm sure both sets of fans will be bang up for it. I think the one positive for Liverpool is that in a sense it's a bigger game for Newcastle than it is for Liverpool. Their season, I guess, obviously they'll be trying to get into the Champions League as well, but for their fans, all they want is a piece of silverware. They've not won a trophy in 70 years, and obviously it was a huge blow for them not to get over the line against Manchester United a couple of years back. So I'm not quite sure how many of the players that line up on Sunday will have played in that game, but whether they've learnt lessons from that remains to be seen, I guess. But I do think that Liverpool should mentally, of course they'll be disappointed from Tuesday night, but I think mentally the pressure should probably be on Newcastle a little bit more, and it's whether their players feel that. and Liverpool can capitalise on that. Obviously, I'm sure Newcastle will have been delighted to see the game go to extra time. And I suppose it's just how many of those players can go again. But I think when you consider that it is an international break coming up, it's not like Liverpool needs players to be fit and sharp for a game in 3 days' time. So I think the players and the manager will want to just throw absolutely everything at it. It's a blow not having Trent available. Arna will obviously tell us tomorrow, but I assume it's very, very, very unlikely that he's going to feature. Canate just sort of looked like maybe a bit of tiredness, bit of cramp, so hopefully he'll be good to go again. Because really, if Quanta's coming in at right back, you've got absolutely no one else to put in at centre back. So, sorry, Ibu, you are going to have to go again. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does with the forward line. Does he sort of give a real vote of confidence to Núñez and put him in and say, right, go in, almost redeem yourself a little bit, or not? So, but yeah, should be a great game either way, hopefully.
It's sort of an extra day rest than what you normally get in these situations. The Tuesday, Sunday things should help us both in terms of, the likes of Canate, give him a bit more opportunity. We're just up for all of them, really. A few of them will have played 120 minutes, quite a few of them, everyone was on the pitch, put a fair amount in, put everything in. And so that will sort of help us a little bit, but also mentally maybe just sort of clear the mind. I was, there at the exit yesterday, and everyone was a bit like we were, do you know what I mean? Like everyone was, but just an extra day to sort of push it out your mind, but it should help us as well. But I think there will be a real determination to make the most out of Sunday. I think there will be anyway, but especially with sort of going out, and this team have bounced back well this season, and it's been one of the positive things about them.
They have, and I think there will be last year's memories will probably come in handy here, because on the one hand, from the negative side, they're aware of the fact that one cup defeat turned into two cup defeats, turned into the beginning of the big wobble, and they'll be very determined to not put that in. And also, last year's League Cup final, a lot of the players who are going to be playing weren't able to play last year because they were injured, and they saw all the celebrations happen, and they saw the young lads go out there and win it for them. They're like, well, we want to put our mark down. We want to make a contribution to Liverpool winning a trophy. So I'd like to think that determination will help them. But also, in terms of just the mental prowess of so many members of this squad, I think that, going back to Beth's point about the pressure being higher on Newcastle, I think that Liverpool would be a lot better placed to recover from going a goal behind than Newcastle would. I think if Liverpool scored the first goal, Newcastle suddenly start thinking, uh-oh, are we here again? Are we going to disappoint on the big stage once again? Whereas, as Beth mentioned, Liverpool have come back from behind. Liverpool have done so many different ways of finding a way to win a football game this season. They'll be like, okay, let everyone stay calm. We can just go again. We've got the talent there. I am fascinated by what he does with this forward line.
Yeah.
Really fascinated, because I don't know how he judges what is a good performance. Does he judge by how the players are doing? Does he judge by looking at the centre-backs of Newcastle and thinking, what do they least want to deal with? Because personally, I feel like Dan Burn would probably fancy playing against Núñez, and less so against Jota, perhaps. But then you think about, well, maybe the Diaz centre forward thing comes back into it if Gakpo is fit, because again you think that maybe they don't want that. But then the flip side of that is that Diaz had actually a really good game running at Newcastle from the left wing in the league game, and they're going to have 34-year-old Kieran Trippier playing a right back. So you think, well, maybe you want someone like Diaz running at him, turning him inside out a little bit. So there are so many different permutations.
Well, there's the extra midfielder as well, which you haven't mentioned, which he's done, that he could maybe do it and think, well, I'll have Szoboszlai running. So I don't think he'll go with that, but he might.
It's a possibility. I mean, obviously, the only issue with that is that, again, if it goes the distance...
Yeah, who's your midfielder, so...
Yeah, that's the... I mean, well, there's potentially Harvey, obviously, but... As we've said, Harvey only really comes into one position, and we haven't really seen that much flexibility with the other midfielders. I mean, Curtis has sometimes played more advanced and
I'd have thought he'd have played more six, though.
Yeah, I do. And we'll have to wait and see whether or not that comes into play in this game. But yeah, I think there's a part of me that's like, if we're going to be down to what amounts to our fourth choice right back, I'm really glad Andy Gordon's not playing. Yeah. And that's no disrespect to
Jello considers as well. Jello Quantin be like, no offense taken, meeting.
And like, that's not no disrespect to Harvey Barnes, who is on his day a good right player and a goal threat. I just think that the way that Gordon's able to attack the weaknesses, or basically just be very streetwise and just, put himself in the worst position for a defender to have to deal with, I think having taken that out of the equation is going to make it easier. But I've got full confidence in Jarrell. I think that his second half of the season, he's been getting better and better. So I feel like this could be the day where he really crowns that and really turns the narrative from the first day of the season, where it looked like it wasn't going his way.
He was very assured when he came on against PSG. I thought he did a really good little cameo there.
I think it will be a different sort of game, though, won't it? Like there's I think you come on and with a sense of purpose and stuff like that. But in a game where you'd expect Liverpool to have more of the ball, in a game where you sort of start and sometimes it's better not to be able to think about it. You're just suddenly in there and you're like, okay, well, I'm just in a mad game, and you just sort of tackle it. You'll have all week to sort of think about it, and which can be a positive, but also could occasionally be a little bit of a negative here. Listen, I'm not writing him off, and he's the guy who's going to play there, and hopefully he does well. But I think it's a different sort of game this for Quantin. I think I think you'll see a little bit more of the ball, and there'll be a little bit more maybe reliance on him to contribute from an attacking point of view as well.
I'm kind of hoping that's not the case, because I know when we played against Newcastle at St James's Park, that was kind of the challenge that we had. The ball went to him and it kind of fizzled away and stuff like that. So I'm hoping with a bigger Wembley pitch, a bit more space for Mo and maybe Diaz or Gakpo running wide, that he's able to pass that ball around and let someone else do that work, and he can just concentrate on having a good day defending.
What would you do up top?
There's something about this season and the way that he keeps getting ripped apart by everyone, including our fans, that tells me that this could be the final where Darwin Núñez scores a brace to win the cup. I don't know what it is. It just, even when he missed a pen the other day, and there's something about it. It just feels like he likes scoring against Newcastle. I'm not sure. Dan Burn obviously likes fighting against anyone, the big dope, but I'm not sure if he can. I'm not sure if he'll be able to keep up with his pace. I think maybe we could drop one over the top of him and he can get a couple. So I would personally be starting Darwin, but I'm a massive Darwin fan, in contradiction to many people on the pod.
What do you do, Beth?
I would also start him.
Yes.
I would have started him against PSG, actually. I think because Jota really struggled. He wasn't on his own by any means, but I think in the away leg just didn't really offer an awful lot.
It was a real surprise to me he picked the same front three as PSG away.
I thought if he was going to do anything, maybe he'd do the midfield thing. I was really surprised to see Jota start. I think Núñez, when he came on, he didn't get long against PSG away from home, but he obviously sets up the goal, and just automatically I just think Liverpool looked more of a threat from him making those runs in behind. And then obviously it was I guess the reverse of that, wasn't it, on Tuesday night, where he came on, didn't really do a lot. His decision making was poor, and then obviously scores the penalty. And I mean, I felt on a human level you can't help but feel for him. I know there's probably some fans who disagree, but I think ultimately when he stepped up to take that penalty, I'm not quite sure anyone in that ground fully believed that he was going to score it. And I think that is the crux of the problem. If your striker, who is potentially going to end up costing you a club record 85 million, if you don't believe that he can score a penalty in a big game, I mean, I wouldn't have even had him on penalties. That's how little faith I had in him.
Then he's your number 9, and so that's mad in itself.
But that's the point, isn't it? It's like, well, that says it all, doesn't it? If you wouldn't have your number 9 on penalties, he'd have been way down my list of penalty takers, because I just think mentally in that sort of game, I don't think you can trust that he's going to keep his head. So I feel like I've just contradicted my original argument saying that I would start him, but
you start him because then you don't.
You can bring him off before the penalty.
Basically, yeah. So that's what. If he's on the bench, I'd be like, well, a tight game, I'm not going to put him on because
I don't want him taking a penalty. But again, it's like I wrote a piece on him last week after the Southampton game, and because I just felt like that just encapsulated him to a T, because he has a few half chances that he missed. He nearly gets sent off. Is just totally reckless with a really daft and needless challenge, but then produces these two moments. He scores and wins the penalty, and I still think, I think his time is up this summer. I absolutely do, but I still believe that he can contribute between now and the end of the season. And look, if Jota were banging in the goals and was in great form, you'd say, right, no, you stick with Jota and he's your number 9. But I think Jota looks way off the pace, and he has more credit in the bank for what he's done over the course of his career. But I think this season, actually, Núñez has contributed more. And you look at some of Núñez's contributions, away at Brentford, his brace there, that was such a crucial moment in Liverpool's season. It came at a time when people were starting to say, oh, well, Liverpool wobbling a little bit. And, I think the momentum of the title race could have shifted really, really quite starkly had he not come on and scored. At Southampton at the weekend, he sets up Harvey Elliott away from home against PSG in the first leg. So he still is capable of producing those moments. So yeah, I'm Team Darwin for this weekend, even though I do think this summer will probably be his time to go.
I think that's where Arne slots with him as well. Do you know what I mean? He's not necessarily saying, he's not his forever 9, but he might be, where he's at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's a difficult balance to strike, because you want to keep him engaged, you want to keep him feeling like he can still contribute. And I mean, the game against PSG, I think the more worrying than the times where it didn't kind of go for him, it was just the kind of like the indecision. There was a couple of times where he didn't even challenge for a ball that clearly was put into the air for him to challenge for, and he was just a bit like, what do I do here? And that kind of lack of focus, that I think is the beginning of the problem. When he's in that mode, that's when you think, well, he's not really any use to anyone. When he's charging around like a blue-ass fly and just, probably being a bit over-exuberant at times, that's the Darwin that you can channel into becoming an actual useful part of the team. And that's going to be Slot's biggest conundrum between now and the end of the season. How do you make sure you get that version of him, and then how do you channel him in the right direction? I'm like Beth, I probably would start him, as much because I think that he needs to clear the slate as much as I don't think that I would rather have Jota on in the second half of the game than him.
Yeah.
From that perspective. And again, I think Darwin takes so much of the attention and the thoughts of everyone because of the nature of who he is. But I think what we've seen from Jota in the last 3 or 4 weeks is arguably more worrying.
Yeah.
Because I think most people would have assumed that he would still be there next season. And so you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, how much have these injuries taken a toll on you? Because go back to the beginning of the season, before the injury, the first 10 games, he was excellent. He really was. And not just in terms of his goal scoring, but in terms of his contribution to the team. And so if there's a world, if we can get that version of Jota back, then great. If we can't, then we've got more problems. And yeah, I do want to put on record again that I apologise to him because I got the stat wrong. It was 3.5 years. It wasn't 4 years. I've had it on good authority that he was not happy when he found out that I got it wrong. So yeah, I want to make that more clear. But the fact remains is that it's been a while since he's come in and done the things that we like to think that he's known for. So maybe the appearance off the bench where he comes in and contributes would be the perfect tonic for him.
It is a massive worry, that, because previously he'd get injured, but then he'd come back and he'd get a few goals. And he was streaky, he was never consistent, but he'd come back in and score. I remember he came on at Burnley away and he'd only played 5 minutes and scored a goal, and we were all behind it again and stuff. And it is a worry that the injuries are still continuing, but that return to form or that banging a goal, he was totally ineffectual against PSG. I just don't know. I felt bad for him. I felt like the best thing to do was drag him off because he just didn't look like he was enjoying it at all.
Yeah, no, I think that is right, and it looks like he's struggling a little bit sort of mentally with it all. Like, I suppose if you know what you're capable of as a footballer, and you're not delivering that, you know, it must be sort of so frustrating to be sort of going through that. But I mean, I can't believe you've talked us all into Darwin starting, Leon.
Are you on it as well? Then?
I think I'm going to have to be. I think I'm going to have to be. Are you going? You going the game?
I'm not going. No, I don't like Wembley.
Do you not?
No, I hate Wembley. And I can't stand it. I think 96 when Cantona scored for United. I don't think I've really enjoyed it since then. And after Cardiff, I think I've only been once. Usually let someone else use a ticket. So Cardiff was better. It was just moving there all the time.
Yeah.
It was well better. But no, I'm not going. I'll probably be either with my half fella that is or sat in my own in the house screaming the house down and the neighbours wondering what's going on. With all my flags out the windows and stuff like that.
You on, Beth?
I am, yeah. I'm working it. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
So you're going to behave yourself?
until the evening, and then I can let my hair down.
Some little silent fist pumps as Darwin's brace flies into the net.
But I'm, of course, going to be totally neutral. So, yeah. Wink, wink.
And are we going to win? Are we going to win, man? Most importantly.
Yes, we are going to win. Absolutely, we're going to win.
In 90 or?
Oh, please. I would really like it if it was in 90, but that doesn't seem to be how Liverpool win finals, really, is it?
Well, we're watching in Australia where it's a 3:30am kickoff, so I'm hoping it's done under 90, to be honest with you. The funny thing about Sunday for us is that once our game's finished, there's actually more football on.
Yeah.
So if you like, you could just sort of carry on through and watch Man United v Leicester.
So I've got the motivation to have an early night because my flight to America leaves at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. And I'm also flying on St. Patrick's Day into the East Coast of America. So that in itself is a really, really bad idea if you have a hangover. So, yes, I'm hoping that Liverpool win and I'll have a couple of glasses of red wine to celebrate and then an early night.
Sounds like we all need Down to do the right thing. Get them goals early, doesn't it?
Listen, loads more to look ahead to this game on the Anfield Wrap at the moment. So audio and video. We're going to be doing loads of preview shows, loads of stuff to get stuck into. So if you want more looking ahead to Liverpool's Carabao Cup Final, then you will certainly find it on the Anfield Wrap app. On the day, we have got the bus. I'm not on it, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, I'm going to be in sunny Sydney, which isn't bad either. Looking forward to those live shows. But we have got the bus, and so we've got the A-team going down on the day, so they'll be putting out content on the way down there, and then straight after the game from the bus, post-match audio and video, which we will be getting up as quickly as possible. So, yeah, it should be a brilliant day at Wembley. We'll be covering it best we can across, obviously, the social channels, but also for our subscribers with some great content as well. So, if you haven't yet, we would encourage you to download the app, get stuck in, and hopefully we'll all be celebrating on Sunday. So, good stuff going out over the international break to look out for as well. So, we've got ahead. So, there's obviously a few of us going out to Australia, Mo going out to America. So, we've been doing quite a few extra stuff, but there's one in particular really good documentary to look out for. I don't want to give too much away, but something that I didn't personally work on, but I have seen and is absolutely great. So look out for that. That's going out, a little mini doc as audio and video going out in a couple of weeks' time. I can't remember the exact date, but during the international break, it is great. And then Gutman's at the wheel as well. How petrifying is that? So there's probably going to be daily gutters over the international
just
break.
Just one continuous one. For 2 weeks.
Yeah. You just basically we'll just wake him up and he'll just start talking. So Rob's sleeping here, and every moment he's awake talking about transfers. No, there'll be loads of good stuff going out over the international break. About half of it we've done already. I've done something with Dave Powell on the finances, because a few people have been asking about us doing something on Liverpool's financial statements and things. So that is all recorded, so that is ready to go as well. So do come and join us, and if you want a partner on this show as well, we're still looking for the right partner for this. So if you work for a company or you know anyone who might be interested between now and the rest of the season, we'd love to have you. I think that is everything. Good luck to Mo in America, good luck to us in Australia, but most importantly, good luck to those boys in red against Newcastle on Sunday. I've heard they don't want to know. Up the Reds.